Well, Amanda, thank you so much for being here with me on the Entrepreneurial Success Podcast. I am thrilled to bits to have you here, only because I know we've got a fantastic topic to talk about, which most of the audience would already know about, but I think we're going to dive a little bit deeper into it. So heads up for everybody, this is going to be a fantastic, fantastic episode. Amanda, before we get started, why don't you just introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Thanks, Henriette. So I am an inner calm coach to high achieving women in business. And so what I do is I help female entrepreneurs navigate a calmer way to business success, if that makes sense. I help in as much as there's so much stress and overwhelm that is associated with business ownership, and particularly female business owners. I think we take the brunt of responsibility for our household, our children, and that's something which is innate. I think we naturally do that. It's not about sexism or anything like that. And so we are prone to overwhelm, more so I think than our male counterparts. So we want to be the best mom, the best wife, the best business owner, and it's just all that juggle. And I like to help people see that they can do that, but there are best ways to do that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. See, I'm already getting so excited about this topic. Before we dive into what we want to teach everybody here, which I think is going to be so phenomenal, one of the things that always inspires me is everybody's unique journey, how they got started in business. What was that moment, that aha moment that kind of drove them to where they are now as well? So what does that look like for you, and how did you get started?
Well, I was a bit of a slow starter, probably. I was in the corporate world for 18 years, and I think sometimes the universe gives you signs, and I just totally ignored them along the way. And was like, not listening, la la la, fingers in ears, all of that sort of thing. But eventually it came to a point where I just couldn't ignore it anymore. I was becoming increasingly negative and very disenchanted with the whole corporate politics. And eventually it came to a head in a meeting, and I was humiliated in the meeting. I won't go into details, it's not important now, but actually it was the biggest gift you could have given me at the time, because it shoved me into doing what I needed to do, what I wanted to do, is to have my own business. And so I bought into a franchise, and I ran that for 11 years. In the last 3 years of that process, I decided that I loved nurturing people within my business. I had 20 employees, and I could see the impact my words and my actions were having on those girls, ladies that work for me predominantly. And so I started to explore coaching as a prospective business beyond my franchise. I must say, when I bought my franchise, I had an exit strategy of 10 years, and I was going to sell and go. So it was always my plan. And so it kind of fell nicely. And in the topic that we're talking about today, I'll tell you a bit more about how I came to sell the business and how I used what I knew to help that process along. But yeah, so then I retrained as a coach and set up my coaching business. And since then, I've been sort of honing my niche and trying to find out where I could explore better, where my talents would help others. And I just love being able to inspire others to do what they want to do, but also to do it in a way that serves them well as well. Because stress and overwhelm were a big part of my early business life, and I managed to navigate my way out of that, but it was painful, and I'd like to help people avoid that pain if possible. So that's what I do, and it's a whole combination of things like mindset strategies and coaching tools, and also some spiritual practices which I developed along the way and learned along the way. So yeah.
It's lovely. It's lovely to hear it. And I know I sound like a broken record when I say this, but I say this all the time. When we sign up for entrepreneurship, or when you sign up to start a business, one of the things nobody tells you is that you actually sign up for a lot of self-development. And this is one of those things that each and every one of us discover as you're going on this journey. But I think it is just so powerful that once you're open-minded to the fact, you realize that this journey I'm on is really about discovering myself, my skills, my strengths, and what I can become rather than just having an entity in a business and something that's financially going to hopefully, support you. And I think this is so important for people to understand. When you go into business and when you are in business, be open-minded to the fact that you have to go through stages of self-development on a continuous basis. It never stops.
I know, that's true. That is so true.
Yeah, but I think this walks very nicely hand in hand with what we want to talk about today. And one of the things that I know everybody knows about is the law of attraction. So when we talk about law of attraction, some people would relate to it. Some people would find it's a little bit too much for them to compute. So they might steer away from it, and that's okay. But I am fascinated with the law of attraction. And I think for so many people, when it really came to light was when, The Secret came out. That's the first time I heard about it. But why don't you talk to us and explain to us a little bit the law of attraction, so we can just really put it into context, and then we're going to dive a little bit deeper and talk a little bit more about it.
So yeah, I always stumble a little bit about on the definition of the law of attraction. All I would say is, in a nutshell, it's like attracts like. And so I think Abraham Hicks defines it as that unto itself is drawn, which is another way of saying like attracts like. And what I think is interesting is The Secret encapsulated that whole notion very beautifully in the book, and in a very sort of simplified form, and the tenets of ask, believe and receive are just really great ways to sort of learn more about the law of attraction itself. But the one thing that I was always sort of eager to explore was the connecting sort of line, if you like, between those three elements. And I think a lot of people become disenchanted with the law of attraction because they say, well, I want more money, and I'm saying to the universe every day, give me more money. And what they're not realizing is they're not actually aligning with more money. What they're aligning with is the lack of money. And there's this great idea that, what you say yes to comes to you, and what you scream no at comes to you. And it's like, what? That makes no sense. But actually, if you think about it, it is what your predominant being is, what your predominant thoughts and energy are all about. So whether you're resonating with abundance or whether you're resonating with lack, you've got to kind of like be very aware of which it is, and then try and realign if necessary.
Yeah.
I think the missing element, if you like, from The Secret, and the law that is always kind of ignored because I think people are maybe a bit cautious about speaking about it, is the law of vibration. This whole notion that we are energetic beings, and a bit like when you photograph a computer screen, you can see it vibrating. You know that thing where you think, well, I don't see that in real life, but actually there's the law of vibration, is that we are all vibrating, but it's so fast and so energetically enabled that we can't see it with a human eye. And so what I like to think about with the law of attraction is, if you're vibrating at a level where you're really happy and content and things are good, then generally that's what you'll see. You'll see that outside. So what's within is without. And so I think that you will tend to notice the good. There'll be bad around, but you won't see it. And so I love that, because it means that you can be a bit of a Pollyanna, if you like. You can actually just be that person that just is always happy because you only see happy and good things. But I think what you have to be aware of is that you can actually be vibrating on different levels for different things. So a lot of us have hang-ups about relationships, for example. Can't find the right partner, and it's your past that's affecting that energetic response to that whole subject. On another subject, money, you could be really rich, really wealthy, and have no issues with money whatsoever. So it's about a kind of a whole approach, really, to the whole notion of all the different aspects of your life, and trying to tune into that place which feels really good, and it's just reaching for that best feeling thought every single day.
I'm fascinated by it, because I think you and I had a separate conversation before we actually did this recording, where I told you that I'm personally going through a little bit of clearing blocks through to abundance, and I'm doing a little bit of energy healing work as well, because I am a bit of a spiritual person, I will admit it. But I think that there's so much more to it. I had a stage in my business where nothing wanted to work the way I wanted to. And I knew about the law of attraction and I was applying it. And I actually realized after about, I would say about 6 months in my business, that I was using the law of attraction against me.
Yes.
And I was using it in the wrong way, i.e., when I was looking at my bank account and the money wasn't coming in, I felt a lack. My bank account was going down rather than up. So what I felt then basically gave out the vibration of the universe then saying, well, if you're feeling that way, we'll give you more of that, because now it's a match for match. And then when I realized that, like, oh, this is what the law of vibration is all about. It's about matching your vibration with what you want to attract.
Yes.
Everything started falling in place. And it doesn't happen overnight. Okay, for some it might, if they already know how to use the law of vibration. But when I started working on the law of vibration personally and realizing that my emotions had to be in the right vibration in order to attract what I wanted, things started happening for me. And it's only then that I realized how the law of attraction then combines and how it all starts, helping and compulating everything.
Yes, yeah. I mean, one of the things I did, which was very transformative for me in terms of money, was I used a trick which I read in a book called Creating Money, funnily enough. And it was basically saying that when you pay bills, generally you feel bitter and resentful, especially if the car's broken down or you need a new pair of tyres or something crops up and, there's that, oh gosh, not again, especially if money is tight. And what I did was I read this chapter and it said, bless the money that comes in and bless the money that goes out. And when you do that, the whole vibration around that whole subject changes, because you're basically thinking then about all the people that are going to benefit from the money that you've given. So, the food that's going to be put on someone's table, the clothes that somebody's going to be able to wear because they can afford to pay for them. And it just transforms it. And so you're more in a gratitude state of mind because you're pleased that you're being able to help those people and make them abundant. It really helps. It just really helps. So I think that's quite a little strategy that maybe your listeners could use. It certainly helped me enormously.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And we're going to talk a little bit later on about manifesting money. So I think that's one of those things that everybody that's here listening now thinking, okay, but how do I do that? How do I do that? So we're going to talk a little bit later about that, about manifesting money and clients, very importantly. But talk to us a little bit more about the law of vibration, because as we're talking about the law of vibration, I'm not just a spiritual person. I'm also somebody who believes in the science behind it. Knowing that our bodies, is a whole group of cells that are constantly busy, constantly vibrating. That, in a sense, made me realize, okay, so the law of vibration works, because let's face it, as human beings, we feel seeing is believing. But I think once you kind of look at the science behind it, and then you bring the law of vibration in and the spiritual aspect of it, you just got to try it out. You just got to really go and just try it and see things happening for you. And it does work, because I wanted to see first before I believed in it. And I tried it out for a couple of weeks and things started happening. Amazing things that I would have never thought about before. And that's only where I really captured the spectrum of what you can do with the law of vibration in order to manifest things for myself. But talk to me a little bit about the law of vibration and how people can really zone in on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I think the easiest way I would explain it to anybody who wants to experiment with this is to just reach for that best feeling thought you can in the day that you've got. So, we're all affected by external factors. It's trying to, sort of put a lid on that, if you like, and hormonally we might be triggered, so there's all sorts of things going on every day, which means that we don't always have this like sort of plateau. We're always sort of up and down, which is how it should be. Nobody wants a life like that, because it's like a flat line, isn't it? So what I would say is try and be as happy as you possibly can be every day, but start the morning, set an intention. Today I'm only going to see the good in everything, or today I'm going to be the happiest person I could possibly be. or today I'm going to be as nice as I can be to everybody that I meet. You know, set that intention, and that will be powerful in itself. And then your energy level will already rise from that intention. And therefore the people that you'll meet, you'll be astonished how they react to you, because you've already set that. And some people said to me a while ago, you really shine when you talk about this thing. And I think it's because your energy is almost visible. And I like to see everybody as magnets, you know, so it's that whole idea of the vibration and the attraction is because you're emitting a signal, if you like. And so, you know, I'm vibrating or emitting a signal at 97.2 and you're at 97.2. We're going to meet. We're definitely going to meet. And so that's really exciting, as long as you're at a high level as well as me. And so what people say sometimes is, well, what happens? Why is it that, you know, I'm going along and somebody will do something and it'll annoy me, it'll trigger me? And, you know, that's life. And it's about your response then. And you know when you're at higher level, because you don't respond poorly. You don't sort of shake a fist at somebody and go, you just think, oh, he's probably having a bad day, and just move on or not even notice it. You know, it's really a sort of it's very beneficial to us if we allow it.
Yeah.
But it's about getting in that zone of intention first and foremost, that you're going to actually always be amenable to people who are going to be high or lift you higher. Yeah. And that doesn't necessarily mean cutting out people in your life that are negative, but it's about responding to them in a way that's not going to bring you down as well.
It's so funny, as you were saying that, I just remembered my parents always taught us from a young age that you've got to develop, you know, being emotionally mature. And I never knew what it meant until obviously later, much later in life. And I was like, oh, that's what it means. Because it all comes back down to your emotions, about how you're controlling your emotions. Because as we all know, your thoughts dictate your emotions dictate your actions. But once I kind of tuned into what my emotions are on a daily basis, starting in the morning, meditating, getting my emotions in state, knowing exactly what the intent is of what I want the outcome to be for that day. The emotions are one of the biggest aspects that we need to zone in on, really. And correct me if I'm wrong here, correct me if I'm saying the wrong thing. But from my experience, once I kind of really zoned in on my emotions, and yeah, I can be happy driving down the road, and if somebody cuts me off, you know, I could freak out and say something crazy. But again, it comes back to my emotions of how I'm going to steer that back to the happy place almost. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does. And I think it's really important to have kind of things that you can do that will get you straight back into that zone. And so I think things like music is very good for that. So, you know, if you are in the car and something happens that, you know, really, you know, ticks you off, just go into something that's going to lift you back up, you know, put something on musically that, you know, it's going to make you feel happy again. Have a go-to playlist, for example, that's going to do that for you. And it's just learning those strategies to kind of help you stay more and more and more in that zone, rather than, you know, down and trying to pull yourself out all of the time. But yeah, you get more and more practiced at it, the better it will become and the easier it gets as well.
Yeah. And I find as well that I might be wrong for saying this, but these days in particular, because we are so surrounded with technology, you know, technology really has taken over so many scopes of the way we think, what we do, and we kind of forgot a little bit of how to tune into ourselves, how to tune into our own emotions. And that's, you know, even when I work with my clients, I just say, you know, when you wake up in the morning, first thing, don't even look at your phone, just leave your phone.
Yeah.
Don't look at it, because you're gonna get, you know, going down Facebook, and before you know it, an hour later, your emotions are already spiraled out of control because of what you've consumed that morning. So the rest of your day is just going to go by how you're feeling. So I think it's really important for people to understand that the way you start your day, the way you control your emotions, the way you consciously think about your emotions and what you're going through as you're going through different stages throughout the day. I think it's just maybe getting a little bit of control back about your emotions. Am I right for saying that?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, I was just thinking when you said about if you look at your phone first thing, you're immediately abdicating your power, aren't you? Because you're giving it over to something else, or you're subjecting it to that possibility that someone else will upset you, or you'll get angry at something that you see somebody's commenting on. So I think it's important, like you suggested, to do something for yourself. Tune in. Like meditation is just such a good way to do that, and there's so many resources out there now. YouTube's full of good meditation, guided meditation videos, so it's easy for us. But also, like you said as well, having that intention of living purposefully through the day without being led by the nose by somebody else. It's easily done. I do it. It's just, it's so easy to sort of get lost in, like you say, Facebook or Instagram, and it can take you down a rocky road. So it's important to rein that in if you possibly can, have some discipline around it, and not get too sucked in by it.
Just recognize where you're at that moment, and pull yourself back out. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's that recognition and catching yourself and going, oh, where is this taking me? I need to get myself back up to a higher vibration of feeling amazing and feeling great. And I think that little walks a bit hand in hand with another thing that is so powerful, and that's about surrendering. And I think when we talk about surrendering, people will go like, what do you mean by surrendering? But there's a really innate way of talking about it, but also in business, for all of us who are running businesses, we feel we need to be in control the whole time. And this is something that personally I've experienced myself, but I'm going to hand over to you. Why don't you talk to us about that?
Well, I think, yeah, you're right. I think entrepreneurs generally, they do what they do because they want control. They want to be the boss. They want to have the last say. And I think that's key in business. You have to have somebody who's the CEO, somebody who's going to make those hard decisions. But I think the one thing that I find is that the common thread with entrepreneurs as well is that they tend to be a bit control freakish, which I like the term control geek rather than control freak, because freak's not a nice word. But I certainly was one of these people that I didn't like giving over control. A lot of entrepreneurs struggle with delegation. They struggle with perfectionism. We just want everything to be just so, and so we micromanage, and we get ourselves into such a state because we haven't got control over everything, and external factors will come and hit us in the face. One year it might be there's a recession looming. The next year, we get COVID, and it's just, it can be very, very draining. And that is something which I struggled with my business. I started my business right at the start of the last recession in 2008. So it was a bit crazy, and a few people thought I was nuts, but that's where it goes sometimes. But I think the control issue for me, when I talk about surrendering, I'm not talking about giving in, I'm talking about giving over. So recognizing what's in your bag of responsibility, what you can control, and then leaving the rest alone. So what you can control is quite limited when you look at it, and it's things like how I react, what food I put in my mouth, how I speak, what I do with my body, what exercise I do, whether I meditate. All those sort of things about ourselves are well within our control. Same with our business. We can control how many sales calls we make, or how long we spend on social media, and those sort of things are well within our control. But when it comes to other people, something I really struggled with, you can't control their behavior. You can't manipulate them beyond telling them what you want them to do and trusting that they're going to do that. And one of the things I've been exploring recently is surrendering to this whole idea of a higher power as well. So this idea that you're not only surrendering and just giving up on something that's not not in control, but you're actually giving over to something else. And if you do believe in a higher power, and I'm not going to say God, because I know a lot of people switch off when you say that word, then it makes it just simpler to understand that it's not your responsibility. That's not your job, if you like. You've got to do your part, but then trust that and surrender to the idea that the next part of the process is not within your control, and it's not your responsibility either.
Mm. I love what you're saying, because there's something that I learned as well, is about let's talk about when you want something. Let's say, for instance, we're going to talk about getting clients next. So say, for instance, when you want to get clients in your business. The first thing people always ask me is, how do I get clients? And I love the how in it, because there are so many ways to get clients. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things where you've just got to say, I use this little sentence and I'll share it here. I always just say, instead of saying how, I always ask, what would it take for me to get more clients? And by asking that, you're now triggering something in your brain that is going to try and search for that answer. But also, it's a part of surrendering, because I know that the universe, God, whatever it is that you believe in, will show you how to do it. But it's that little belief system that you need to have as well, believing that what you're asking for will show up. And that's part of how I realized I needed to surrender. And that doesn't mean that I'm stopping on searching for reasons or how-tos or how to do certain things. It just means that I am letting go and surrendering that back to a higher level where I know that I'm going to get that answer. But then another point of that is something that I've experienced as well. And I think maybe this walks a little bit with the law of vibration that we just spoke about, is surrendering to certain ways that I'm feeling. As an example, yesterday, I needed to draft an email that I needed to send to my email list. And at that moment in time, I knew I had to get that email done, but I didn't feel like doing it. And I'm sorry to say, but I just honestly did not feel like doing it. And I thought, what do I really feel like doing right now? And I told you about this book that I got, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go and read my book. I'm going to make a cup of tea and just go and sit and read. Now, normally in under normal circumstances, when you're in in an office and working in corporate, you can't do that. But we've been so habituated that you've got to work the whole time, and you've got to do something. You've got to be active in order to see results. But I quickly realized that if I don't want to do something and I don't feel like doing it, I need to take my attention away from that, surrender to what I really feel like doing at that moment. So I went to read my book possibly for an hour or two. And then all of a sudden I just had this moment where I was like, that's it. I just finally figured out what I needed to do. Came back and I wrote the email within 5 minutes, and it was a perfect email. I was so excited about it. And then I just felt that that's it. My energy was at the right level, and I felt that I was really connecting with what I wanted to put out in that email. And the email went out. But it just shows that sometimes you do have to surrender as well a little bit to the kind of emotions that you're feeling at that moment.
I absolutely love that, because I think a lot of us, especially business owners, beat ourselves up when we're not working 24/7, because we think that's what we need to do. We need to hustle, we need to grind, we need to do everything possible and fill those hours of the day with work. And I totally do not believe that to be the truth. I think that just what you've described is great, because it means that you then came back, took inspired action, and were probably more productive in the 5 minutes that you wrote that email than you would have been in the previous hour had you not taken the time out to go and read. And I think responding to yourself and knowing your own emotions very well is a really good barometer of where you're going and how well you're doing, if you like, as well. I think emotions are really great, powerful indicators to us. I remember reading once that if you're insulted by something or somebody hurts you, the reason that you feel that emotion of sadness or whatever it was is because deep down in your soul, you know the truth, and that's not it. So your emotions are responding on a soul level, if you like, to say, that's not true, that's not what it is.
Yeah.
So it's really important to listen to what your emotions are telling you.
Yeah. And that comes back to just, surrendering to them. I don't mean it in a negative context. I mean it actually in a positive context about how you're feeling at that moment. And that kind of brings back to what we said earlier on. How you're feeling, you need to realize, are you on a low vibration or are you on a high vibration? And then decide, make a decision and say, I don't want to be in this place. I want to be in another place. And then take you there, do something that can take you there. And that's what I did. I was in a very low frequency and I decided I needed to read a book. I got a fantastic book. I went to read it, brought me up to a high vibration. And then from there I went, and in 5 minutes I had that email done. So I think I just wanted to give that example as well, as to how to surrender to the emotions, but to really tap into them and you know, just realize what it is that you want at the end of the day as well as a business owner, because we can be quite harsh on ourselves sometimes.
Oh yes, totally.
I think the other thing that I want to talk to you, and this is one of the things that we want to talk now about, is manifesting money and clients, because we are in business. This is something that is really important to us. It is something that we all strive to at the end of the day, because we need it. Let's face it, we need money and we need the clients in order to survive in our business. So let me hand that over to you again, so you can talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I think money is a very, very tricky subject, isn't it? Because, you know, in business, it's kind of almost the driving force. For a lot of business owners, it is. I would argue it shouldn't be, but it is. And I think that's what a lot of people go into business for, because they see it as a vehicle to make more money than they would if they were working. I think you're right, though. They don't buy into all the self-development which comes with it. And you just think, actually, this is much more than I thought it was going to be in terms of creating a business for myself. But I think when it comes to money, there's a lot of baggage that comes with that whole topic. And it's only when you try and explore why you think the way you do about money that you realise that you're carrying an awful lot of conditioning, blocks, beliefs that, you know, you don't even realise you have. And I think one of the things I say with my clients when they've got money blocks, or any idea about what's going on in their heads about money, is look at what you think about money, what comes up for you when you even hear the topic. Most people, they spew lots about money when they get asked those difficult questions. You know, what do you think of rich people? What do you think about money as a topic? And all the things that you can ask the questions around. What were you told about money when you were growing up? What did your dad think about money? What did your mom think about money? All these things can be asked, and you can then get to grips with why you believe things that you believe. One of my personal beliefs was that not that the root of all evil was money, but my mum used to say it's the love of money that is the root of all evil. And so I never wanted to be the person that loved money, because I didn't want my mum to think badly of me, and I did not definitely want to be evil. So I think a lot of people have that in their psyche. They have that think, they think that maybe if they start to enjoy money, they'll become a bad person, and that'll make them, you know, not a nice person to be around, or just they're going to go to hell even. Some people believe that. So, you know, even in the Bible it says it's easier for a rich man to pass through the eye of a needle than to go to heaven. And, you know, you've got all of that sort of going on in the background. Who on earth would want to make any money? You know, it's crippling in many ways, and it causes an enormous lot of stress and conflict. So I think you need to sort of like down tools when it comes to that sort of belief system, and really look at what money is. And I would argue that money is just simply energy. It's just simply an exchange. And it's a medium that we use to beat ourselves up with, but it's actually just to facilitate. And I think one of the things that we all believe, although it's obviously, often it's actually discounted, is that money doesn't buy happiness, is what we usually are telling ourselves. And I would say that's probably true. However, money gives us choices, and it gives us freedom, and choices and freedom give us happiness. And I think that is the thing that people fail to kind of make the connection with, and that's why we stumble all over it. So one of the things I would say to anybody listening, first thing to do is just unpack all of your beliefs about money and question them, look at them firmly in the eye and say, do I believe that to be true? What evidence is there of that? So, for example, rich people are evil. Okay, we've all got rich friends, let's face it. We all probably have at least one or two people that we know that are very wealthy, and they're our friends. So, you know, de facto, they're not evil, hopefully. So I would say you just look at them and question them and see whether or not those beliefs that you've been holding onto for years are true. And then when you actually have kind of debunked all of those, start installing some new beliefs about what money means to you. And if you don't like the word money, use the word abundance, because abundance is is much bigger than money. It's not just about money, it's about true wealth, which to me is all aspects of wealth. And so that's where I would go to next. And then it's about making some sort of effort to attract money to you, but in a very positive way, not in a scarcity mindset way. And what I mean by that is, don't approach it from the fear of the lack, approach it from the prospect of abundance, that there's more coming and there's more where that came from. And money comes to me from unexpected sources. Money is easily and effortlessly making its way to me. All of these sort of things that you can say to yourself. And yes, you'll feel stupid to start with, but trust me, it works. It really does. It's all about making sure that you're aligned with it. So, you know, be the person you need to be to attract that money. Be the person you need to be to attract those clients. I think a lot of people in the industry where they're looking for clients, they don't align with their ideal client. And so it keeps them apart. They're not speaking to them in the way that their ideal client can connect with them. And they've got so much value to give, but they're just not making that connection. And that's difficult, and it's gnarly, and it's, you know, but it's just about changing, tweaking things to just make it more palatable and more amenable to each other, so that you actually do then connect, because you're magnetized to each other.
Yeah.
But money is such a lovely subject. I get excited when I talk about manifesting money, because I think it's really crazy. I'll give you an example. I did a manifesting money workshop a few months ago. One of my affirmations that I was telling the people in the workshop to embrace is money comes to me from unexpected sources. And I tell so many different stories, but the funniest thing happened. 2 days later, I got a check through the post from a bank, from a loan that I'd taken out 5-6 years before, where they had failed to actually advise me correctly on the amount of interest that I was going to pay. And so they refunded £954 to me, completely out of the blue, totally unexpected, 2 days after I was affirming that with my, you know, with the people in that workshop. And so it's just about raising your awareness of what's possible and just believing. And I've got tons of examples like that. It's very exciting when I start talking about it, because I know it works. And I just, when it does work for you, and I would definitely counsel everybody listening to give it a try, you will be filled with this buzz that you cannot explain, this energy buzz that is like, oh my God, that just worked. What else could work for me? Yeah. And just encourage you to just give it a go.
Oh, I get so excited. I've got a very similar story, and I'm going to share it here as well. When I started going on this journey, clearing abundance blocks, especially to do with money, I then did the same as you, and saying just money is going to come to me from all over in unexpected ways. And I started, I think it was a Monday, I started doing the work. And then on the Tuesday morning, I got a post through where also somebody's saying that for my car insurance, I overpaid on an amount, and they're refunding that to me. And I was like, oh, now normally when I would look at that, I was like, oh, well, this is, you know, this is nice. But I was like, hold on a minute, there's a connection here. And this is where I was talking earlier about seeing is believing, because I wanted the signals. I wanted to see things working in order to believe that the work that I'm doing is working. And then one of the things that I realized I had to do that week is I had to get all the things off to my accountant. So obviously we can start paying the taxes, blah, blah, blah. And then the accountant came back to me the next day, that's still that same week. And they said, oh, by the way, the tax man owes you money because you overpaid on certain things. And I was like, really? And then all of a sudden I heard that £897 I had getting refunded. And I was like, this is just crazy. And then I thought, okay, this is getting weird now, because like I said, I like knowing the science and I like seeing, believing. And I thought, I'm going to take this one step further. I'm not somebody who plays the lottery at all. And I thought, I'm going to go and just buy a ticket and just see where it takes me. And I won £20 with a lottery ticket. It's the first time in my life. And I thought, okay, this is crazy. I'm going to put that to the side. I think I've got my evidence now that everything is working. But it just shows that once you really put the intent out there and once you really connect with the right vibrations, things will start happening for you. That was all I needed to see in order to know that what I'm doing works.
Yeah.
And I've continued ever since with that. And things have just started, amazing opportunities just started arriving in my business that I would have never foreseen. And not just money, clients as well, equally.
I was going to say I think that's an important point, that I think when you start to this journey of manifesting money, your expectation is that it will just come in pounds and pence or dollars and cents, but it doesn't always. It can sometimes come in opportunities, or it can come in the form of, like you say, clients, or it could come in the form of unexpected wins. You know, there's so many things. I mean, I think you know my story, that my husband and I went on a quiz show, and we won the sort of the jackpot at the end, and that was a time where money was really tight for us, and there's just no way you could have actually predicted that would have come. But the opportunity came up, we seized it, we went for the audition, we got through the audition, and the audition itself was crazy because we were gifted questions that were just perfect for us. I can't explain how easy it felt fun as well. And I just think, actually enjoy the process. I think that's important as well, is that it shouldn't feel like hard work. It should feel, and you were describing in your story, your face lit up, and it's fun, isn't it? It's just extraordinarily good fun.
Yeah, I think that's the part of it which I really enjoyed, because I thought, let's make a challenge out of this. I really want to put this into practice. And I had fun along the way, and seeing the results coming back, I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And with the fun that you're having and the results that you're seeing, now you are in the right vibration, you can do it over and over again. And I think this is the other thing as well, where people go like, yeah, but how long did it take you to get to that point? Like I said, I started doing the work on the Monday. The Tuesday, I got the first check in the post. So it is however long you want it to take at the end of the day. Like you said, you went on this quiz. Now, it is something that happened while you were in a tight spot, but you just went and had fun with the whole process, and it just manifested that in itself. And I think this is what people's got to understand as well. It is what you make of it at the end of the day. It is what you decide to make of it.
I think so. And I think it's important that you look upon it as an experiment, as you did.
Yeah.
Because that makes it lighter, makes it, more, there's not so much pressure. And there's a really good book actually called E Squared by Pam Grout. And she does 10 experiments, doesn't she, where she asks you to test the universe. Just see for yourself whether this does work. And I was just blown away by what happened to me when I read that book and all the things that I did. So if there's one, that your listeners might want to, look at, that's a good book to start if that's the beginning of your journey.
Oh, and I'm going to add to that as well. I'm just going to tell everybody. So there's another book that you and I spoke about earlier, and I'm just going to tell the listeners. So if you want to get another book, I think we've got some great examples here already of some brilliant books that you go and get yourself. It's called Money and the Law of Attraction, and you might have had it or you might have heard about it before. Money and the Law of Attraction by Esther and Jerry Hicks. Also a fantastic book to read. And in particular, it really evolves around what we've been talking here about today. But I think it just encapsulates everything, and it just makes everything so much more clearer as well. But yes, oh my gosh, Amanda, we can talk for hours on this. I've just been looking at the time going, oh my goodness, have we been here so long? We honestly can talk for hours on end. Listen, before we conclude with everything, I know that you've got an amazing freebie for the audience. It's an ebook that you've got available for them. Why don't I hand over to you? You can tell them a little bit about the ebook. And for those of you listening, the link will be in my show notes, so you can go and obviously get this ebook yourself. But Amanda, talk to us a little bit about the ebook that you have available.
So the ebook is called Top 10 Tips to Help You Stay Sane in Business. And it's sort of 10 strategies I've used in my business, things that really helped me be a better boss, be a better businesswoman, and just stay sane. Peace of mind in business is quite elusive. Well, I found it to be. There's always something to think about, always something to worry about. And so these tips are generally orientated to help alleviate that, so that you can actually enjoy the process of being a business owner, as well as as well as everything else that goes with it. And so there are some of the things that we've talked about today may be sort of familiar in those tips, but it's a very straightforward, simple book to read, and so I'm hoping that people will enjoy it.
Amazing. Oh, well, thank you so much for making that available. And for those of you listening, like I said, down below this video or below this audio, the link will be there, so you can obviously go and get that book absolutely for free, and Amanda is giving that to you. But in addition, also below in the show notes will be Amanda's website and all her social links. So if you want to connect with Amanda, maybe see if you want to have a further conversation with her as to what we've talked about here today, by all means, feel free to do so, and I'm sure she'd be more than happy to get in touch with you. But again, Amanda, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. This is not the first conversation you and I have had already. We've already had so many conversations before. And like I said, we could still talk for hours on it. But I really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate you sharing everything here with the audience today. So yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure.